We come on the air this evening with several breaking stories on multiple fronts. A short time ago, the White House announced that President Trump has officially started his trade war, signing executive orders imposing tariffs on 3 of our top trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China. Of course, the U.S. will begin collecting the tariffs on Canadian goods starting this coming Tuesday. We don't yet know when tariffs take effect for Mexico and China. We will be taking a deeper look at what all of this means for you, of course, the consumer, a little later on in this hour. We also have some new developments breaking tonight involving the administration's purge at the FBI. As you may know, Friday night, multiple senior executives at the Bureau, the heads of multiple FBI field offices, and about 2 federal prosecutors who investigated the January 6 rioters were fired. Tonight, we have new details about how that went down, including fierce resistance from the FBI's acting director, Brian Driscoll, who, as of tonight, remains in place. Now, multiple current and former FBI officials tell NBC News that Driscoll refused a Justice Department order that he helped with the firings and turn over the names of every FBI employee who was involved in the January 6 attack, which of course was the largest in that bureau's history. Driscoll sent a memo to the workforce last night explaining the directives that he'd received. He did not say whether he would turn over the broader list of January 6 related names, a list he said encompasses thousands of FBI employees, including himself. He wrote, quote, "As we've said, since the moment we agreed to take on these roles, we are going to follow the law, follow FBI policy, and do what's in the best interest of the workforce and the American people, always." In the words of a former FBI official who knows Driscoll well, he pushed back hard, and FBI agents were reportedly heartened by what he did. One agent called Driscoll a stud, who told White House proxies making demands to F off. But feelings of fear, discouragement, and low morale remain and are widespread. One of the January 6 prosecutors who was fired Friday tells NBC News they did nothing wrong and didn't have regrets about their work. But, quote, "We have all been looking over our shoulders like, is this the day that we're going to get fired? Because we were doing our jobs." As for the president, he maintains he didn't know anything about Friday's firing. If true, it is alarming that the nation's chief executive is unaware of the biggest sweeping purge at the very department tasked with maintaining law and order. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, it's great to have you with us on this very busy night. I'll start with the tariffs. I want to get your response to Donald Trump signing these orders to impose these tariffs on the 3 top trading partners of the United States, Canada, Mexico, and China. And as we already have learned, retaliation probably coming down the pipeline, certainly from Canada, in the coming days.
Where I'm sitting right now, I'm across the street from the largest port complex of cargo containers in the United States, the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The economy in this part of the country largely depends on trade. And what I am hearing right now from terminal operators, from trucking companies, from the companies that are actually of course, bringing goods in and out and producing goods is, again, we're back to chaos, confusion, concern. And what this is going to mean, to be very clear, is going to be an increase in prices for the average American family, whether you are trying to buy groceries, whether you're going into the store to build something to improve, to a home improvement project, or for a family that's looking to buy their first home. This is going to increase costs of all types of goods across the board.
Explain why, for our viewers who may not know, why will what President Trump did today impact what you just described?
Because the goods that we're basically trying to export into the United States are essentially going to have a tariff that essentially you can look at as a tax increase. As it relates to Mexico and Canada, you're talking about a 25% tax increase is the way I essentially explain it to folks. And so the people here in the U.S. are the ones that are actually paying the price. And so the folks that are bringing in the goods, that are creating the goods, they're passing this cost down to the average American family. This is incredibly destructive for the economy. And if people think the price of eggs is high now. People think the cost of food and vegetables are high now. Just wait till these tariffs actually fully become into effect in the United States. And so we're seeing in just the last few minutes, an hour, also a revolt from major companies, major manufacturers, and folks involved in the trade industry about what Donald Trump is doing. And so I encourage folks to get loud and to push back forcefully on this issue.
I would never dare ask you to put yourself in Donald Trump's shoes, but what is your understanding of why this administration is imposing these tariffs? How do you not rationalize it, but how do you even try to begin to understand it based on what they're signaling and telling and communicating to the American people directly about why they're doing it?
I mean, this is like lunacy and insanity. I think Donald Trump is imposing these tariffs because maybe he talked about it at rallies. I mean, I don't think anyone has any idea why he's actually even doing this. I mean, look, tariffs, as we know, imposed in this type of swift action, any economist, anyone in the trade industry will all tell you the same thing. This is a horrific idea as it relates to the increase of goods and trying to get inflation under control. And so it's really hard to understand why Donald Trump is doing what he's doing. And he's clearly, in my opinion, going to cause major harm to the average family. And people need to know why their prices are going to go up.
Of course, he's doing that on the trade front. But as I mentioned, the other breaking news story this evening, Congressman, is what is happening domestically with our Department of Justice and our biggest law enforcement agency, the FBI, and the firing of these top executives. Now you have the news that this FBI acting director, Brian Driscoll, refused to assist with forcing out these officials. How are you assessing what has happened? Does it, on one hand, give you hope that we still have individuals like Brian Driscoll who push back, or does the fact that he pushed back mean that he will ultimately be fired and the takeover, if you will, the Justice Department and the FBI will still proceed as Donald Trump and his administration intends?
We should be scared as hell. You have basically Donald Trump forming his authoritarian government, where he is in charge of every lever of government. The idea that he's going to, into one sweeping mandate, fire could be thousands of law enforcement officials that are charged with actually investigating crimes in this country. And by the way, investigating, of course, as we know, serious crimes were committed on January 6th in attacking our government and other conspiracies. I'm glad, obviously, there are some folks who are going to stand up to Donald Trump. But let's be clear, Kash Patel is right now probably going to cruise through confirmation at the U.S. Senate. And so you have this essentially attack dog of Donald Trump's who is going to go after his political enemies. And I think it's comical. We should laugh at Donald Trump saying he had no idea that this was actually happening. Give me a break. Donald Trump knows exactly what is happening, and he's trying to seize as much control as he can for himself, for Elon Musk, for his billionaire friends, and he's trying to essentially wipe anyone out that wants to stand in his way. We should be very concerned about these actions. And these actions, by the way, along with getting rid, for example, of all the inspector generals, should be very concerning to us.
I'm going to ask you specifically about the January 6th employees at the FBI. I mean, the fact that, you're talking about, as you mentioned, potentially thousands of employees who were involved in this sprawling investigation. It was at the time described as the largest investigation ever carried out. Almost every single field office in this country had an active case or was participating in that investigation. But to the second point, if these employees are in fact fired, what danger does that pose for our national security in the immediate short term?
A huge danger. Eamon, I think you know this. We had a group of militia, of insurrectionists, try to overthrow the government. Let's not forget what actually happened. They attacked our United States Capitol.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman from Texas, Mark Veazey. He's a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman, what is your reaction to these moves, and does it make us safer?
No, these moves are absolutely crazy and unnecessary. Trump actually caused a panic, a huge panic in the healthcare community a few days ago when he did that initial freeze. I had individuals from federally qualified healthcare centers reach out to me and tell me that morning at 8 a.m. that they were locked out of the grant and loan system and they were not able to get in that morning before it was supposed to even take place at 5 p.m. And so he compounds it with this effort. And I had a doctor reach out to me from Chicago that I know that grew up here in Texas that said that all of the information about contraception and STIs that were on the CDC website has been pulled down, and that there's now an actual black market amongst healthcare professionals to get this information because no one can access it and find it now. And it's very critical that healthcare providers have this information. But of course, he took it down. And so now it's created this crazy underground system of doctors trying to share this information with one another. Just absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary.
Well, I've heard confusion from folks, even in the public health sector. HIV/AIDS is not something that impacts one demographic or another. It's not an LGBTQ or a gender identity issue. All people of any demographic, age, gender can be affected by this very serious virus and disease. So that's really concerning a lot of people. I also wanted to ask you, some government agencies have suspended all events marking holidays like Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Black History Month, which is now underway. This is even coming as Trump actually signed a proclamation marking February as Black History Month, which is a bit confusing. The son of Martin Luther King Jr. is speaking out today saying, quote, "I object to Trump disingenuously citing my father." He said of the DI attacks that, quote, "nothing could..."
Mr. Rowe echoed these concerns on X, writing, "No amortization in history has targeted Christians like the Biden admin. We saw on prosecutions after another from shutting down the churches during COVID to avoid pro-life homes at crack of dawn. Every pro-life prisoner Biden wrongly imprisoned should be pardoned." When questions by Harley about the DOJ's treatment of Catholics, then Attorney General Merrick Greenland defended the department, stating, "Our department protects all religions, all ideologies. It does not have any bias against any religion of any kind." Many abortion rights advocates criticize the pardons, arguing the signals Trump opposition to abortion access. However, Trump has stated